Hello, hello,
Okay.
hello, everyone.
Hello. Are we audible? Can someone say in chat if you're audible? Please let us
I'm
know.
clear, right?
Yeah, I can hear
Hmm.
both of you guys. Can you guys hear me properly?
Yep. On YouTube, I've seen we are live. Uh, wow, 11 people already here. Nice. A few comments have also started saying the topic eras. I think has started the conversation on a very good note, which is क्या बात है क्या चीज है पैसा क्या बात है क्या चीज है पैसा, which is an apt start for today's discussion, which is films versus capitalism, which is more about anti-capitalist films that we are going to discuss. Before we begin, this is a disclaimer. None of us have studied political science beyond a few semesters in college. ठीक है, हम में से कोई भी एक्सपर्ट नहीं है, किसी ने भी मार्क्स को अपने बेड टाइम बुक पढ़ के नहीं मतलब अपने बेड के बाजू में रखते नहीं हम लोग. तो डोंट लाइक go after us if we get some shit wrong. If we're wrong about something, please tell us in the comments. And we are not,
Let's
in no way are we authoritative about this.
let's
So
think
I'm
about
just
this as a conversation rather than us talking.
absolutely, this is more of a conversation, and we would like this to be a little chill, not not just be outright ki, don't pull out the guillotine just yet. That's it. Aryan Nair ne bola, what do you mean by capitalism? Aryan Nair, please look at Erhaz Zaman's comment on at the top, which is kya baat hai, kya cheez hai paisa. Anyway, so all right, great. So just to begin, I am Aditya Khanna. With me are Himangshu Arya, Himangshu Selo, and
I
Bharat Misra.
Hello.
So we are from a YouTube channel called Discontent. The show you're watching right now is episode 6 of DISSTALKS. DISSTALKS is a collaboration between Chalchitra Talks and our YouTube channel Discontent, where we do podcasts and film analysis and history videos and just general live streams and stuff. So if you like our content relating to films and you like our conversation, please go and subscribe to Discontent as well. You will find the link to our channel in the bio. That said, we will go on to talk about today's topic, and it is a very loaded topic, don't you guys think? Like there are so many films which are like film as an art itself has been developed parallelly with I mean, eventually what won in terms of cinema as an industry was the capitalistic one, right? Because when cinema grew in the Soviet Union later in the 30s, 40s, that there was a sort of anti-capitalist cinema and sort of state-funded cinema, and not a market-funded cinema, which started in Russia and Soviet Union, as opposed to the Hollywood system, and the Hollywood system won. So, as an industry or as a unit, cinema is a very capitalistic art form. But it's very interesting, I personally think, because cinema also is perhaps the most accessible art form after maybe music or something, which automatically makes it a little bit more socialist in nature, because you have to sort of get the guy on the ground to sort of relate with your characters and feel for your character. So I think it's a very interesting and slippery slope of a topic. So I think it'll be fun to talk about this. Do you guys have any
it's
opening
it's
notes?
funny. It's funny how in India now
Hmm.
we have started making movies which support socialism, but these movies are like mainstream
Mhm.
Bollywood films. So, for example, a Gully Boy comes out, and it's talking about you know how capitalism creates these class structures, and we are part of the problem. We all, and also we are also like the people who are in the lower classes are suffering, right? That's the entire argument in a film like Gully Boy. But at the same time, the film has to make that money,
Yeah.
right?
So, yeah.
It's
I mean,
also it's also I mean, like almost a sign of our times, na ki जब भी like the system is capitalist, right? Right
hmm.
now we are living in a capitalist world by and large, especially India, right? So for example, आज ही मैं देख रहा था, I was going through this, वो Instagram पे ads आते हैं ना, so I saw an ad for a t-shirt जिसमें लिखा था which had an anti-capitalist message, and I was
Woke
like,
wala.
हाँ
Coke
कोक
वाला
वाला
enjoy capitalism with the
या
Coke का logo and sign.
enjoy
Yeah.
coke है ना, तो उसमें लिखा है enjoy capitalism. Now my point is कि you are critiquing capitalism using capitalism, क्योंकि तुम ट्विटर पे ऐड डाल रहे हो, right? So
But that is not even capitalism. That has now become neoliberalism. No, which is what I'm saying. It gets very
and
tricky in
मतलब
this case.
even let's look at film watching, right? And I
हाँ
had this moment when I watched a film called Matru Ki Bijli Ka Mandola, okay,
हाँ
which is an anti-capitalist movie by the way.
absolutely yeah.
उसमें एक moment आता है जो बहुत मेटा लगता है मुझे. So I think perhaps one of the best moments in that movie is when Pankaj Kapoor is laying out. He's a capitalist, okay? He's laying out his plan for, you know, the town, and it's full of lush green fields and all that. He's like, "What do you see?" And he's like, this other person says, "I see fields," right? And he's
Right.
like, "No, I see multiplexes. I see people paying 500
Factories.
factories and all of that." And in that,
Right.
and you cut to that montage, and in the montage he mentions, I can see the cling of the cash machines at a multiplex where people pay 500 rupees for a ticket, and you can actually see like the ticket coming out. And at that time I'm like, ये तो मैं करके आया हूँ, मतलब
Vishal Bardwaj is saying that, but Vishal Bardwaj is also chilling with our money. But
exactly.
no, but you know that here's the problem of making an anti-capital. That's what I wanted to address in my first get-go wala mera jo statement hai diya. Ki as a medium, it is so reliant on capitalism that even if you are an anti-capitalist, you would have to be somebody like, I don't know, like Swaroop, what's his name, man? Uh, Kamal
Kamal
Swaroop,
Swaroop.
fuck, I'm really forgetting all the names today. Aguirre का director कौन है? अपना
Herzog.
Fitzcarraldo. Herzog. You'd have to be somebody like that, you know, to sort of survive in the system. But point being that, you know, in India, it's a very different thing, because I think in India the biggest example of anti-capitalist, or what was to me very interesting, I'm not saying it was all right. I mean, there's a lot of criticism of left movement in India because they did not consider caste and they wouldn't address caste issues themselves. But from the 70s 80s, when the parallel cinema movement was happening, I think that was a very good clash, you know, because it was state funded movies, right, versus, not even versus, because it wasn't really a competition between the two, but as opposed to the mainstream cinema. And what's interesting is, at that time Amitabh Bachchan was making socialist films,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was around the same time as Emergency, and it was a lot of those feelings were going around with that iconic photo Sitaram Yechuri with Indira Gandhi at JNU.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm saying at that time there was a proper clash, you know, of like, and I kind of actually wish that today we had some state funded cinema. I know it would go a certain way very quickly. You would have to have very ironclad sort of regulations in place to make sure it doesn't go into biased territory. But um, you know, the films that they made at that time, which we still remember, some of the best films in Indian cinema, whether in fact, a film that tackled capitalism very head on from the parallel cinema movement was Kalyug, right? If you guys remember, which Rajniti basically took off from that only, which is Mahabharat but in a corporate
Kumar
setup.
Shahani's film, I think.
Sorry.
Kumar Shahani was the filmmaker, I think, of Kalyug.
Right. It had Shashi Kapoor also in it. Right. So yeah, I think we should get to, this is more about the systems and stuff. But you know, it's interesting you mentioned Matru Ki Bijli Ka Mandola. We'll try to get some of the simpler films out of the way. फिर हम लोग level up करते जाएंगे थोड़ा थोड़ा करते करते. But Matru Ki Bijli Ka Mandola is very interesting because the premise of that film is lovely. Okay, which I have personally encountered a lot in life, which is and those of you who've not seen this film, it's basically an industrialist. Like Pankaj Kapoor is a big industrialist and he's like a big capitalist who has a problem with drinking. He can't control his liquor.
Yeah.
So, but what happens is, it's very interesting that by day he is a hardcore ruthless capitalist, but once he starts drinking, he becomes a communist
He
because
becomes a
he starts
student
feeling the
leader.
pain of the people.
Yeah.
So that it's a very interesting sort of, and I've seen this, you know, if you've ever been drunk with a lot of people who might have very bad opinions, once they get drunk,
Yeah.
suddenly love starts flowing out of everywhere,
Yeah.
So it's very. I thought the premise of that film was pretty solid. The film, however, in my opinion, wasn't that wasn't that amazing. But
I really enjoyed
yeah.
it. I thought it was a nice. It had a
Uh,
nice farce, like farcical vibe
hmm.
to it, which I really enjoyed. But yeah,
Right. Right. Uh, all right. So, if which film do you guys want to tackle the first? I think the most popular one recently would be Parasite, right? जो किसी ने comment में कहा भी था, which is Parasite was the most obvious sort of take on capitalism. What did you guys make of Parasite, and did those themes really hit you guys? Any one of you?
yeah. I mean, I can take that because I feel that उसमें पूरा एक he had. I mean, again, I'm using a term which probably I do not fully understand. So please correct me if I'm wrong. But in college, we had touched upon the idea of the subaltern, right?
Yes.
We had spoken about how there is a subaltern that exists. The sub means below, right? And I find it interesting, and I'm sure this is common knowledge. It's not like something that I'm only talking about, but how he's used layers, how Bong Joon-ho used layers to depict the underworld, like not the underworld in the way that we get it, like the gangster, not that,
Yeah.
but the underworld, So I felt that was very, very, and this is, see, that's what again, I'm coming back to my statement that Aditya keeps repeating, which is that subtext works
When you have text, yes.
This is such a great example of a simple sort of subtext which makes sense to the story, like which is integral to the story because it's a basement, right? That's where you will hide, and also it works as a subtext. So I think that gives you the most joy when subtext and text align. So anyway,
and that makes the greatest of cinema. Sorry, Himangshu, go on.
No, so the ending of Parasite, do you guys remember that?
yeah.
It
Spoiler
becomes
alert for Parasite. Yeah.
अच्छा बोलूं कि नहीं बोलूं?
खाली alert दे दे, अभी तू बोल दे. हाँ.
So end becomes more subtextual, right? It
Yeah.
goes away from being about the story and the characters, and it becomes more about the class difference and how this one character apparently goes and lives under the house, right? The main character, the father figure, he runs away, and then later on we see that he goes into the basement, and he's been living there for God knows how long.
How long?
So what's the message? Do you guys remember that? Is it like that the son is dreaming to be of a different class?
Yeah.
He's hoping, that apna time aayega moment is that this is our moment to shine. And this is that one thing that reflects in every movie that is about money, right? They all, like, there's a character and he's always hoping for, making it big, and but, of course then things come in. And
just to go off on that front, because just to relate to another film that Himangshu you mentioned, which is why I wanted to sort of butt in when you said Gully Boy also, because Gully Boy is not a socialist film, it's a neoliberal film, because the tagline of the film is Apna Time Aayega, which
and
implies
Azadi
that
is a song, right?
Azadi to, let's just put that aside. Ranveer Singh ne to खुद ही बोल दिया ना that I like the beat, that's why we put the song. He said it in a film companion interview. So मैं नहीं कह रहा.
He said
he's apolitical. So anyway, let's not go there. But point is that the term apna time aayega implies that the lower classes have a chance to get there someday. And Parasite Parasite exactly does that, reverse of that in the end, where he is dreaming. My father is, and the subtext over there is so beautiful, because it's that my father is stuck under this house, which is a analogy for the lower classes of society, and he's stuck there because of his position in society. And I will one day work hard, I will make the right calls, and I will hustle, and I will do all these right things, and one day I will go there, I will buy this house, and they show that as if it's happening, but it's not. And then you eventually cut to him folding those pizza boxes, right? And he's stuck in that daily hell while knowing his father is stuck under. So that's why that, to me, that's why that becomes an anti-capitalist film.
Yeah.
Rather, like, all this is what I'm saying. A lot of Bollywood also would claim to be that way, but they're not anti-capitalist or socialist so much as they are using the poverty of their character as a hook or as a character trait.
Also, as somebody mentioned, I think Tanul Thakur again, I keep
Hmm.
quoting him for Gully Boy. He says that, it eventually says that it gamifies success.
Hmm.
It makes it makes an abstract concept into a concrete thing, which is that, okay, if you're poor, or if you're born in bad circumstances, here's your way out of it. This, ये ticket to Bombay types, कि आप बॉम्बे आ सकते हैं हमारे साथ. So that thing becomes like a gamified version of reality, which again sort of, I mean, I would say that that's not how things work, right? That's not how things
Right.
work in reality, or very rarely does it work.
I want to address a comment, and because a lot of like around 57 people have joined, so I'll re-give our
Oh my god. Himangshu, you want to re-give our this thing disclaimer?
जब ना
disclaimer that I gave when there were only 20 people. I think I'm frozen a little bit. No.
Yeah.
No, do you guys know the McCarthy trials ka this thing? I am not, and I've never been a member of the Communist Party of so I'm just letting all of you all know कि हम लोग को, I don't think, knowing these two very well also, I know that none of us have a very committed position on this. We don't, I think all of us will admit we don't know enough about the world to really have a committed position on economic system क्या होना चाहिए दुनिया का. But किसी का comment आया जिष्णु बोरा का, which is every cool kid in India is anti-capitalist until you need money to feed your family. Just saying. I think this is also very disingenuous because ये एक जैसे वो बोलते हैं ना कि अगर कोई एंटी कैपिटलिस्ट हो रहा है फेसबुक पर हो रहा है पर अरे तुम फेसबुक यूज कर रहे हो, अरे पर ऐसे नहीं होता. मतलब फेसबुक इज अ रियलिटी ऑफ टुडेज वर्ल्ड, सो यू यूज इट for whatever ends you might have. And also this whole thing of every cool kid, it's not just about that, it's a conversation on systems. So one can be privileged and one can come from those sort of backgrounds but still have thoughts to say that, to recognize that this system is flawed and deeply flawed, like in the film Hazaro Khwaishein Aisi, where the protagonist comes from a family of privilege but wants to sort of is a very hardcore communist and actually joins the communist movement, and the end of that film, spoiler alert, is about a breaking of that sort of naivete.
But I kind of agree with this comment actually. I have a counter to that. I feel that, मतलब, to understand what this person is saying, मैं भी agree इस sense में कर रहा हूँ कि we all talk of these, we can talk of these things academically, right?
Yeah.
Because we are perhaps in some ways at a level where we're not deeply affected by
Of
the
course.
system.
Yeah.
Because हमारा वो we have insulated ourselves from it. And how have we done it? Either we have come into family money,
Or
right?
caste positions also.
Caste positions, or
Yes.
even if, let's say, we did not have that, we would have had to first work hard to even be at this stage,
Right.
earn money through capitalist means, and then talk about these
Grand ideas. Right.
these high ideas. So, and I see this as a reality because we are in a capitalist, by and large, a capitalist society.
Yeah.
This anybody can tell you without having an intellectual discussion about it.
Of course. But what I'm saying is that why I'm disagreeing with that point is because your position in society alone should not be used to dictate what your idea, whether your ideas are good or bad. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying that you can have high-minded ideas or something that disagrees with the larger consensus, but that doesn't mean, and just because you're privileged doesn't make it wrong. Just like if you're not privileged doesn't make it right. You know what I'm saying? So
if you're privileged, then you are continuing to be privileged every day, right?
of course, and
You are
I'm saying there is
different.
hypocrisy in that. There is of course hypocrisy in that.
Exactly.
But then that's why I said we should come to a film which tackles with this, which tackles this rather well. I think all of us can, which is Hazaro Khwaishein Aisi. So, do either of you all want to go on that film first? What do you guys think of it?
Himangshu, do you want to? Because I've been speaking a lot.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Hazaro Khwaishein Aisi मुझे right now I don't recall every detail, but I do remember Irfan Khan is in it, right?
No. Okay.
That's
He
the
doesn't
other one.
remember.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think KK Menon or Irfan को तूने थोड़ा ना mix.
Yeah.
He was
So yeah, don't ask me about this one.
Okay.
So, you continue.
नहीं तो all हाँ Bharat, go on.
नहीं वो अच्छा था, मतलब I agree with that. Basically, I don't have much to add, but I liked that perspective because it was honest. It was
Hmm.
it was like a, if we were like, it's very self-aware that way, right? That film, I think the best quality of that film is that it's self-aware.
Hmm.
तो जो भी तुम्हारा क्रिटिसिज्म उस कैरेक्टर को लेके वो सोच चुका है, वो मतलब ही इज लाइक ओके आई नो आई साउंड लाइक एन एसहोल हियर बट दिस इज व्हाट आई थिंक, you know. So that part is, I think, the single most interesting thing about that movie also, the voice of both the characters, by the way.
Right.
Both the characters are, and वो बड़ा interesting है क्योंकि they're writing letters to somebody whom they are very honest to,
Hmm.
right? Both of them are writing dear Geeta type letters, right?
Right.
और वो अपनी hypocrisy, अपने situation की irony सब कुछ जानते हैं, they're self aware, which is why it's such an interesting film as a conversation.
Right. And I think it's a very human film in that, and you know, where ideas like this is, I think, why I personally really like Hazaron Ko Aise Aisi, which is what we were discussing right now, right? There is the individual, and then there is the idea that they have. And I think the film sort of manages to merge these two very well in a very human way. So you can look at these people as human beings. So whether it is a KK Menon who comes from this privilege and then wants to be this revolutionary, or it is Shiny Oja's character who basically doesn't.
Just 1 second, मुझे call आ रहा है, sorry.
Wow. Okay.
Please
Great. Hey, Cinephile Buddy, I just noticed Chalchitra completed 60,000 subs. Congratulations. Yes, congratulations to Chalchitra Talks. They have completed 60,000 subs. Yes. So I was saying that because Shiny Oja's character is one that does not come from, he is privileged, but he doesn't come from a lot of money and a lot of wealth. He wants to make that money. He doesn't feel so close to society. And this is, which is also, I guess, a commentary on the structure of capitalism itself, which is that anyone who actually doesn't have privilege doesn't necessarily have these grand ideas about collectivization and going against the market, right? It's more about, I want to get out of this before the next guy can. Yeah.
Even the film Court
Hmm.
has this character. One of the main characters is this lawyer who's trying to help out this activist, and
Right.
he's doing it not for money, right?
Hmm.
So the idea is that we're following the central character who comes from privilege. He has the money. His house looks damn good, and he has like a breakfast, his dining table, and everything. And every day he goes to work, and he goes to this activist who does not have the means to pay for him, and he's also collecting donations for this activists trials, which is something like you can take acha, he's a good guy, but also he can afford to do it.
Right.
It goes both ways, right?
Which film?
Right. But in Court, it's basically Court would touch on a lot of these themes, right? Court touches on caste also, and I mean, as again, and similar to Hazaron Ko Aise Aisi, though much better film. Court is a much way better film, but Court does the same thing, right? It merges the human beings with the ideas that they either are forced to represent or they want to willingly represent, right? Whether it is that I forget the actor's name. I know she's a brilliant actor. The female lawyer, the Marathi lawyer. Yeah, right, her. So the way that they show that these people and where their ideas come from and the judge and everything, I think it merges a lot of those things really, really well. Yeah, Bharat, how's your call?
Which film were you guys discussing before this? जो हिमांशु बोल रहा था.
कोर्ट की बात कर रहा था वो.
Nice.
Yeah.
तुम लोगों को याद है, मतलब ये मेरे को actually when we were discussing on our group ना before this, तो किसी ने mention किया था They Live, right?
Yes.
If you guys remember, I don't know if you guys have watched this, but
No.
नहीं, Zizek का एक वो है documentary, I think.
Perverse Guide to Cinema.
हाँ, Perverse Guide to Cinema. उसमें They Live का बहुत बड़ा एक segment है. And They Live ना, I saw it before that because it's a very trash. It's like a B movie, okay, and it's a little bit like a pulpy book, which is a movie in which this guy gets a pair of glasses, and by watching, like by wearing those glasses, he can see the reality in the world. And the reality is like very ironic and funny. Like, for example, if there's a person drinking Coca-Cola on a billboard, when he wears the glasses, it's like a skeleton drinking like Coca-Cola, like that.
When they show cash, it's on the money, it says, "This is your God."
Yeah. So that kind of a thing is there. So it's a very interesting movie. If you guys have not watched
Yeah.
it.
I haven't seen it, but
It's
it's been
John Carpenter's, right?
yes, John Carpenter. It's been on my watch list. For John Carpenter is a wonderful filmmaker. उसका Escape to New York देखा था मैंने. भाई
मैंने The
मतलब
Thing देखा है.
yeah, his movies are very he's a very smart filmmaker. It's not like he's like he makes these very campy films, and but camp is an art, right? Camp is a very difficult thing to pull off, I'm sure. So
एक मूवी थी ना जिसमें आदमी का हाथ कट जाता है, पैर कट जाता है, कुछ तो काट लेता है और उसपे फिर वो लगा लेता है that chainsaw, and then he kills army of something, okay, army of the dead or some movie like this. John Carpenter की मुझे याद है, but yeah.
Eraz ka comment aaya, which a lot of people have also addressed. On a side note, while we are talking about court, do you guys think it has a savior complex because an upper caste guy is fighting for a Dalit activist? I read this somewhere, don't agree with it. I think the film, in my view, I admittedly all of us are also upper caste and we are privileged. So just giving that out there. But so of course our view will also be of that. तो हम लोग ऐसे कुछ वो ऐसे promise नहीं करो कि मेरा view सही है, but मेरा जो मुझे लगा film देख के कि they have addressed the savior complex thing. They have addressed the hypocrisy, or rather the difference that despite this guy going and like sort of having this thing where he's sort of working for this activist without money, as Himangshu said, but at the end of the day there is a marked difference in the way that these people live. In fact, there's a very interesting moment in court which I thought addressed this. By court, I mean not the film, inside the courtroom in the film court, which is the opposing lawyer Gitanjali Kulkarni, right? When she is giving her statement, she's giving it in Marathi. Now, this guy, our main lawyer, he's like a Bombay kid. He doesn't speak Marathi. So, but the activist speaks Marathi, and that's his first language. So the activist lawyer says to the judge that can she give the statement either in Hindi or English so he can understand it. So the activist says that I don't. No, it's okay. Can you just give it in Marathi because I'm more comfortable with that? Which kind of shows you about this guy is that this guy is an outsider in this world and he's trying to force fit himself, which I thought was interesting.
Not just that, I think the gaze is not that of a savior. It is that of characters who, and अगर savior complex type का कुछ होता तो it would have been a hero's journey, right?
Like Swades.
Like Swades, or like even Article 15, right? For that matter. उस type की journey होती, but वो है नहीं.
वो नहीं है इसमें.
वो जीतते नहीं है. वो चलता रहता है, you know. So that way, I am sure that it is a perspective that is an upper caste perspective or a privileged perspective, but I don't think that that's used in a savior complex way. That's my thought. I might be wrong.
Right. So okay, sorry, the comments are just distracting me because I just want to remind everyone in the comments. We knew when we were going for this stuff. और ये दोनों मेरा मजाक उड़ा रहे थे, but I'm telling you guys कि disclaimer देना इसके लिए जरूरी है क्योंकि ये बहुत ही जल्दी सिविल से नॉन सिविल हो सकती है कॉन्वर्सेशन. तो प्लीज ये कॉन्वर्सेशन थोड़ा सिविल लोगो, काफी लोग लड़ रहे हैं. अगर प्लीज थोड़ा काम डाउन होकर इस पे बात करो एंड आराम से. फिल्म्स, दिस इज व्हाई वी यूज फिल्म्स एज मेटाफर्स, ताकि ज्यादा एक्सट्रीम नहीं हो जाए बात. फॉर एग्जांपल वो एक तो मैं छूना ही चाहूंगा, बट जिष्णु बोरा हैज सेड इन इंडिया डिबेटिंग communism versus capitalism makes zero sense. It's a place where half the people can't even feed their family 3 times a day. Everyone is a capitalist without knowing the term capitalism. Jishnu, again, that's what I'm saying. That is your perspective. I might even actually, I don't know my own perspective on this. I don't have a committed position, but the thing is, maybe from a communist point of view, that is exactly the reason why capitalism needs to be tackled, right? So I'm saying कि इतना absolute statement मानने की कोशिश नहीं करते. I think वो better रहेगा, but yeah, there is a discourse going on whether surnames dictate caste or not. I just want to tell everyone that they do. India has a very deep history of caste. आपका believe नहीं करने से फर्क नहीं पड़ता. It exists and वो है. Anyway, so let's move on. It gets hairy very quickly when you get into politics. Bharat, please unmute yourself so we can hear your golden thoughts also on this. But yeah, which film should we go on about next?
There are a
Is
couple
there?
of Hollywood films that we had sort of
Absolutely.
picked up, right? एक
Yeah.
तो मैड मैक्स के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, which is I think very blatantly anti-capitalist
Yes.
because it deals with water, right? And how water itself is commodified, which
Right.
I mean,
Which it is.
which it
Which
is.
it is. Okay. Yeah.
So I mean that is I mean let's get the obvious ones out.
Right. And you know, this is the problem with also with talking about capitalism, communism, because or not, we're not even talking about communism. Sorry, we're just talking about films that tackle the subject of capitalism and how well or how badly they do it. Right. So in that, Mad Max is a very apt portrayal, because if in a society a resource is necessary for survival, like water, and if one person has control of all the water, then that is an ultra capitalistic uh, society, right, where where everybody else is sort of dependent on that person's benevolence to be able to have access to that life saving thing. Similarly, in our life also, in our regular world also, which is non dystopic, it is very hard to, which is इसलिए मैं disagree कर रहा था उस comment से, because you know, it's very hard to say these absolutist statements. It's not absolute. Like every time somebody talks about कि अगर कोई socialist measure put करना है अगर कहीं पर health care में या किसी भी चीज में, ओ वेनेजुएला बन जाएगा. अरे वेनेजुएला नहीं बनेगा. It's about 1,000 battles. It's a million battles on very different levels. It's not all one thing, and that's also something that people need to sort of realize. But Mad Max is a hella good film. In fact, I think Mad Max is very interesting because it takes that the left discourse, and makes it interesting. Because as Bharat, you were saying, the left discourse is so highly academic and so high society, you know, ironically, that it is so hard to sort of break through their barrier. That matlab, how does an, like, if you meet an average person and they just want to understand what is communism about, why should I take on the market, whatever, why is the market bad, it does help me, it gives me my salary. If you have to explain these things, some fucking academic will be like, oh, have you read Hegel, have you read these 50 books by academics, have you read this research? It doesn't work like that. So I think these films help in I think cinema, that's why, is instrumental in sort of popularizing these concepts in a very rudimentary understandable way, you
हाँ
know.
मतलब that's what ना, for example
Hmm.
Amitabh Bachchan's Angry Young Man is basically that. If you look at
Hmm.
Coolie, for example,
Right.
Coolie तुम लोगों ने देखी है या सुना होगा उसके बारे में, I'm sure.
देखा है
सुना तो
मैंने.
है. उसमें उसमें अमजद खान ने इसको मुक्का मार के आईसीयू में चले गया था ना अमिताभ बच्चन. दैट्स
मुझे
ऑल आई नो
नहीं
अबाउट.
मारा था
किसी ने तो मारा, सॉरी, प्राण ने मारा था.
नहीं मैं बताता हूँ किसने मारा था. पुनीत इस्सर ने मारा था,
पुनीत सर. हाँ,
जो कि आजकल नहीं, नेवर माइंड.
नेवर माइंड, प्लीज गो ऑन. हाँ.
बट उसमें इट्स अ वेरी क्लियरली एंटी कैपिटलिस्ट मैसेज. एंड इफ यू लुक एट दैट एंटायर एरा, उस टाइम की जो मूवीज चल रही है उसमें विलन कौन होता है? वो यू नो सूट बूट वाला बिजनेसमैन टाइप. यू नो इट्स ऑलमोस्ट लाइक अ क्लीशे नाउ. मतलब अभी हम देखते तो हम कहते हैं अरे यार ये क्या क्लीशे है 70s 80s का. बट इफ यू थिंक अबाउट दैट इकोनॉमी दैट टाइम, इट वाज ट्रू, राइट? And
there was a time when Bollywood villains would be feudal lords.
correct.
And come to think of it, there are no recent movies with that kind of a villain. We have forgotten.
Rowdy Rathod, weirdly enough, had a feudal lord. मुझे याद है क्योंकि
But
बहुत ही
that's what,
randomly.
these are all
Yeah,
rehashes of the 70s 80s
exactly.
formula.
Yeah.
So that way.
That is because, yeah, so that I think a lot of cinema made in India at that time was also released, you know, for a lot of people who were watching that cinema. The only way you could fight your actual feudal lord was by seeing him getting beaten up by Amitabh Bachchan on screen, I guess, you know. So that it was a big point of release as well. I want to just clear up one more thing, because it gets amazing when you're talking about these topics. I think it's just somebody has said, Hans Landa, great, has said, isn't it ironic that capitalist films are made in capitalistic America, while the Soviet Union censored or purged any anti-communist literature and films? It's not ironic because neither communism, and this is something that I think people need to understand, neither communism nor capitalism in and of itself guarantees freedom.
Freedom
Okay.
or censorship.
Freedom and censorship and your ability to say things is different from the economic model that your country is following. ठीक है, इतना मैं confident हूँ that this I'm right about. I'm not an expert, but this I know कि ये ऐसे नहीं होता. It's not that. I think क्या हो गया in the now modern day lexicon, it has become कम्युनिज्म मतलब लेफ्ट लिबरल अभी इसके अगेंस्ट बोलेगा, मतलब बिकॉज फिल्म सेंसरशिप के अगेंस्ट बोलेगा. आई थिंक नाउ इन पॉपुलर लिंगो इट्स बिकम लाइक दैट, बट just because a country is capitalist or communist doesn't mean they're free. America culturally is a very free society in terms of what they speak about, and Russia culturally, even after communism was over, we can see what's going on, right? I mean, it's not a very free society. So it's a lot to do with culture. I'm pretty sure tomorrow if India can adopt any kind of model, I'm pretty, हाँ ये मैं गारंटी दे रहा हूँ, 50-100 साल जितने भी होने दो, इंडिया कोई भी इकोनॉमिक मॉडल कितने भी रेवोल्यूशन होने दो, people will still do arranged marriages in India because it's a cultural thing. Because freedom to marry is a cultural thing. It's nothing to do with your economic model, and whether it's not a one size fits all and fixes everything. Sorry, thoda gyan ho gaya. But let's come back to fun topics like movies. But this Mad Max thing reminds me of the pandemic. Abhi, because we are living in these times, and it's a very real thing. I have a question. I have a thought experiment for you guys, which is ki it's interesting to think about, because even I don't consider myself like a communist or something like that, but it's interesting to think about that everyone in our country, like in my family, in friends I knew, was very angry. We all were very angry when we heard the news about people hoarding oxygen or people hoarding remdesivir, which were needed to save people's lives, right? In urgent situation, emergency situation, and people are holding it, selling it at a high price, right? And justifiably, everybody was angry, irrespective of what side of the political spectrum, everyone was angry. Then why aren't people angry on an everyday level? Because every day also people do hoard commodities to a very large extent and sell above the market rate, and people do die because they are dependent on whether it's medicines or surgeries or water, even for that matter. So I'm just wondering, why doesn't that translate into everyday anger? Why does it only stay within that?
Because it's not affecting the middle class.
True. Yes.
It's not
The bourgeoisie.
the
Do
bourgeois.
you think it's also because it's not like upfront, like people can't see it happening? Like with a shortage of medicine, you could kind of feel it, right? Because there was supposed to be medicine for all. There was supposed to be vaccination for all, but like when it suddenly, when you figure out that there is a shortage, you realize that the system is flawed and so on.
Yeah. And especially because it's online, right? The moment you go online, you're already gatekeeping it at some level.
You are gatekeeping.
Yeah.
That's the thing, यार. देखो, हम लोगों ने मतलब I'm not sure about you guys, but मैंने at least I have not seen the inside of a government hospital whenever I have fallen ill or somebody near me has fallen ill. Right? ठीक है, एक दो बार कभी देख लिया होगा अंदर जाके, but I've never been admitted there. Nobody I know, and that is instantly a gatekeeping, right? कि ऐसा एक बैरियर है, तो हम लोगों को एक्चुअली कोई आइडिया नहीं है या फिर कम आइडिया है कि व्हाट आर द थिंग्स दैट वी आर गेटिंग बिकॉज ऑफ
our privilege and our position in society.
So that's true for a lot of these things, right? A lot of the things that Aditya you mentioned. अब जैसे एक और क्लासिक एग्जांपल है ग्लोबल वार्मिंग या फिर क्लाइमेट चेंज, राइट? अभी क्लाइमेट चेंज ऐसे नहीं होगा कि सब वाइप आउट हो गए, आधी दुनिया खत्म हो, ऐसा नहीं होगा. इट इज हैपनिंग राइट नाउ. मतलब तुम अगर सुंदरबन में जाओगे या तुम उड़ीसा के कोस्टल एरियाज में रह रहे हो, देन यू विल नो climate change is happening right now. It has already happened for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? But the fact is, people like you and me who have the money, who have family money,
cultural capital also,
we can basically bounce, right?
People who do live streams also, like us. Yeah.
मतलब अब let's say they're saying that Bombay 2050 तक a lot of Bombay will be underwater. Now you're in Bombay, I will be in Bombay. Right. But I am 100% sure that we will figure out a way to get.
We'll figure it out. We will figure it out.
But what about people जो ground पे हैं, right? literally ground पे है. So
Right. By the way, my dad is in the chat and he said There Will Be Blood is a good movie on the subject mixed with religion. So thanks, Dad. But yeah, that I wanted to come to There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood is,
that's
in
actually
my opinion, is a brilliant film talking about capitalism and religion, and not from a, it doesn't necessarily judge or do a lot of the. It's not giving an alternative. It's not saying this good, this bad. It's just showing you the journey. It's like the journey of America, right? And it's actually adapted from a book called Oil. So Himangshu, you haven't spoken in a while Bharat and I were peloing Gyan. So you tell us your opinion on There Will Be Blood.
I remember there will be blood having this no judgment tone to the film,
Right.
because what's happening is there's this rich industrialist and he's struggling to find oil in various oil fields all across America, and in the journey to find his desired oil, which is also a sort, it's almost a mythical moment in the end, in the middle, when he finds
Right.
oil. In the journey he kind of loses out on his humanity and his
Yeah.
connection with his own son,
His deaf son. Yeah.
his deaf son.
His
So
son. No, it is at the cost of his son's hearing. Sorry. Yeah.
so exactly at that point when the
Hmm.
oil spurts out from the ground, there's this huge bang,
yeah,
and his son falls down, and then his hearing is impaired.
Hmm.
It shows how the people who make money, and people who understand how to make money, they leave aside or they shrug away a lot of their personal responsibilities and this and that, and that is what.
Yes.
And the rest of the film is also a metaphor. Like, the ending of that film is this guy is super rich, he's super duper rich,
Hmm.
and he has everything. He has a bowling
He
alley
has
in
a
his
bowling
house.
alley in the 1920s or some shit at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the
And
house is super huge.
yeah,
Yeah,
and the whole thing with religion, right? I mean, the Paul Dano's character in There Will Be Blood. I mean, it is and that's why that film works. That capitalism as an engine, and I'm not saying as a good or bad thing. Again, I'm again giving a disclaimer. हम में से कोई भी हमारा कोई कमिटेड पोजीशन नहीं है. हम सब कम्युनिस्ट नहीं है. हम सब मतलब हमको नहीं पता हम क्या है एक्चुअली. जेन्युइनली बताओ, उतने स्मार्ट नहीं हम लोग. But the thing is that film shows you how America used religion as an engine to fuel its capitalism, and the religion should know its place. Like, that's what towards the end also that they show that this is not where. In fact, the last dialogue of that film is he says, I'm done. Like it's like he's made his point. Like, you have to, or that very iconic which is I drink your milkshake, right? Which is like, which is to say that you, like, do you understand who you are and who you're talking to? You're talking to the king, essentially, right? And that's what that I
and
thought that film was
and
also about.
it's in a way it's showing the departure of a nation from being
Right.
theocratic to, or not a nation but a society,
Yeah.
theocracy to now not democracy but moneycracy, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it.
And it's a logical extension of that They Live Ka short, which is where the on the cash it says this is your god,
Yeah,
right? It's like a logical extension of that shown as a full narrative of the film. So,
very aptly summed up by Eraz in his first comment. क्या बात है क्या
क्या
चीज़
बात है क्या चीज है पैसा, क्या बात है क्या चीज है पैसा. Beautiful line. Just quality content. Just once again, yeah, yes. One of the mods, Samraj, has said, please keep conversation regarding COVID separate from this stream, which is a lot of people are commenting on COVID ka stuff. Please don't give COVID gun. Even if you are a doctor right now, please don't say anything. ठीक है, यहाँ पर ये नहीं है वो जगह बात करने की. So yeah, I just want to give, because I think we're halfway through our stream, so just want to give you guys a reminder. 60 people watching, please like the stream so we can also how the luft of capitalism. So this is a show called DISSTALKS episode 6. DISSTALKS is a collaboration between Chalchitra Talks and a YouTube channel called Discontent. Discontent is a YouTube channel which is run by the three people on your screen right now, and we do a film podcast on it, we do film analysis, and we do a lot of other stuff. And so please go and subscribe to our channel if you like this conversation. You can find the link to our channel in the description. Please do that, it will help us out. Yes.
I wanted to talk about, मतलब मेरे दिमाग में आ रहा था like the origin of films as we were taught, right? Because this is something that we can talk about because it has been academically taught to us.
Yes.
For example, the starting of cinema, we've heard that there were many branches that happened. So starting with the Lumiere brothers and all of that,
Right.
there was one branch which is the American classical sort of filmmaking, which we now know to be classical.
As the Hollywood studio system, which evolved into.
And
Yeah.
the precursor to that was that racist film,
Yes, Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation, right? And on the other hand, you had European cinema, which Eisenstein, all of these guys, and
Battleship Potemkin. And
what is that effect called? Kuleshov effect.
Kuleshov effect, yes.
And also my favorite of that era, the German expressionism, right? Or
Yes.
expressionism. Yeah, and that also, by the way, the most striking film of that time is Metropolis. So I want to talk about that because it sort of merges two things. It takes sci-fi and it takes, I won't say, I don't know if capitalism is what they sort of were going for, but machinikaran, right? The dehumanizing capabilities of industrialization.
Of large scale industrialization. Also shown in modern times of Charlie Chaplin.
Do you guys think, I mean, just as a throwing the bone in the whatever, do you guys think in that battle to claim cinema or claim cinema as a space of conversation, did the capitalist win out? Because they're also, because that era is sort of just now it's like a footnote.
It is only discussed in academic circles. It's not necessarily discussed in that. Also, for why would it be? I mean, I think also that argument was very wrong in my opinion. It wasn't in the right place. It was also, again, it was very political, right? Because there were, I mean, Soviet filmmakers were funded by the government entirely, so that obviously makes it a little
saw it as a propaganda piece, right?
Yeah, at some level, of course. Right. Not that even films made in Hollywood would be, but I think that they are more influenced by culture, I think, more than everyday goings on of politics. I wanted to say something, but it kind of slipped out of my head while I was reading the. कोई तो पूछ रहा, do you guys think that China isn't a true communist country? ये सब नहीं पूछना इधर. Films and capitalism. Films that approach the subject of capitalism is what we're talking about. We are not experts. We have no idea about any of this shit. Okay, please just stick to the topic.
What was the film that was about Olympics? During the time of Hitler.
It was
Race.
No.
Something of fire.
War time wali.
I'll tell you what it was. It was.
Wait, are you guys talking about that Nazi propaganda film?
Yeah.
Oh, that made by Leni Riefenstahl. Triumph of the Will. Yes. Yeah, Triumph of the Will.
That is like a very interesting film, it shows the excess of the other side, right?
Yeah.
And you would expect that kind of a film to come out of a capitalist government, but when you look at that film,
Germany, I mean, yes, they called themselves National Socialist, right? Which is Nazi. But I'm not the most educated on the policies of, I mean, beyond the obvious.
Of the Third Reich. Yeah.
Reich.
Let's not go to the Third Reich, but talking of Third Reich, Hans Landa, guys, has commented, which I think it's a good comment, which is all art is propaganda of its time, thoughts. Absolutely. I think all art, and it should be, right? I mean, if you are going to make cinema or something like that, which is going to reach a lot of people, it should ideally catch the essence of the zeitgeist of that time, right? It should catch what that time is all about. And voluntary, involuntary, not whether good or bad, it is, and वो दिख जाएगा अगर आप, even if you can, यार एक बात बताओ, if you try to make even if you are a very lefty guy, okay, if you're like a very leftist person, if you try to make a film like Shyam Benegal did in the 70s or 80s, today it will fail, obviously, because you will not speak the language of the people. So it's more to do with, you are constrained always by the time that you consider your prime. I think I at least think so. Very few people are outliers to that rule.
You're right. The language that you use to tell your story, or to the language that you use in your art, it matters a lot, because this film, the Big Short Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, of course.
So it's a movie about a tragedy. The housing market collapsed, and a lot of people lost their lives and their jobs and all their money and their life.
2008 recession. Yes.
Yeah, but Hollywood, under the brilliance of Adam McKay, I
Adam
think
McKay. Yes. Yes.
they decided to make a comedy out of it.
Right.
It's made in Hollywood in America and around the people who suffered the most.
Hmm.
And the film has to be, but the film is so entertaining that it works, right? So the
Right.
art, you can say it's, of course, it's anti-establishment, right? That movie is against their own system. It shows the fraud of their times,
Hmm.
but it chooses to use that language, which makes it very popular
Yeah.
and very, very appealing.
Yeah.
Right. And this is true. What exactly what you're saying, that Big Shot speaks the language of today to give those same ideas that were probably other people were trying to give earlier. And it's very interesting. The same people, Adam McKay is also behind Succession, which is one of the best, in my view, one of the best TV shows right now, and a fiercely anti-capitalist show. I feel it is a very harsh critique, in my view,
It
of
does.
capitalism.
It does fill you up with like this disgust for the whole thing.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
this should just go to hell. This whole system.
And the reason I think it's such a great show, Succession, is because it is, it cloaks these things very well. In that, a lot of people who are fans of Succession, I don't think a lot of them understand what the show is saying, or even if they do, it's too uncomfortable a thing to
What are
address,
they
right?
saying? What is it? Tell.
So they are basically showing the super rich, or just that class of America at least, to be absolutely despicable, people who are untouchable by the law, people who are nothing can happen to them. They can literally, there is a line in the show where actually Tom, who's Shiv's fiance, he's threatening somebody, and he says, and if I will send people to break your legs, and if I go to jail, and I won't, he says that, right? So I'm saying there is an they and this is the thing, this is why the show is not for everybody, because they made the characters so unlikable, okay, that the show cloaks that unlikability with humor, so that वो थोड़ा सा वो पच जाए वो,
Also,
right?
also,
हाँ,
also, it does make you care for the characters, and I think
yeah,
what it does, apart from the obvious, narrative style, which is कि हाँ, you make people care for your characters.
hmm,
It also, at least to me, the effect that it had was कि यार ये देखो कितने कमीने लोग हैं, कितने मतलब they're so bad people, but then you realize you're still rooting for one of them or two of them, right? And then
right.
you realize कि oh shit, क्या इनके situation में मैं भी ऐसी हो जाता.
That's what
That's
the
what.
show does. It
If it's like, if we're talking about millions here, would I
hmm,
also, would I do this to my dad?
The delusion that comes with becoming super duper rich, right? Do you
Yeah,
remember the
yeah,
first scene, first opening, first episode has this baseball match, which is a family tradition, okay? Like
yeah,
it's supposed to have, and these rich people are playing a baseball match. And
hmm,
one of the family members has brought a gift for the father figure. I'm
yeah,
forgetting his name, the main guy.
yeah, yeah.
So this watch is okay at best for the father figure. So what this guy does is he pulls in a person who's a young kid who's like a little away,
Yeah,
hmm.
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's clear that it's a race thing, right? This kid is probably not American. He's I think a Latin American or something, and
Latin
he's
American or something like
Are
that.
you talking about that baseball scene? You're talking
Yeah,
about that base? Yeah,
yeah. It
you want to
shows
say
that
it?
this rich guy. Yeah, why don't you
I think we should tell people the scene, what that scene is, because it's in the, so those of you who've not seen Succession, the very first episode, it's about this billionaire family. They're playing a game of baseball with each other. There is a there are a couple of gardeners, and these gardeners have a son who's just sort of chilling in the same park. And the youngest son of this family, who's a complete asshole, he goes up to this kid and tells him, would you like to play with us? And first you think, oh, he's being nice, would you like to play with us, play a shot? And then he tells him, if you hit a home run, okay, I will give you $1 million. All right.
And
And
you know
he
that
he
he's, yeah,
signs a check. He like, I'm not kidding, you don't laugh, I'm not kidding. He signs a check and shows it to him, I will give you $1 million. And then this kid goes to bat, and this kid is all motivated, he tries to hit that shot, he almost makes it, but they get him out. All right, he almost makes it, and they get him out, and then this guy comes and he tears those $1 million in front of him. And the beauty of that scene is not in that moment. I will argue. There's a moment right after that scene, which is he is walking away, and then the father of this of the family, he stops this kid, and I honestly thought कि अच्छा ये कुछ देगा बच्चे को, ये कुछ मतलब help करेगा ये बेचारे को. So then he turns to him and he just says, "Good luck, son. You tried well." And he just sends it, and it breaks this kid's heart. And that is exactly what Parasite also did, right? That's why Succession is such a hard critique of capitalism, which is that it is a system in which you can try your very best, but if it wants to, it will kick you down within. It's such a high stakes game. It will kick you down within moments, and you'll be rest in peace hustle culture, someone has said. So yeah,
Sort of
that
returning to the comment that we were talking about, which is
Huh.
that times what was that comment? Every art or every film is that times propaganda, right? So, and I think the interesting thing about that is it only makes sense in retrospect. For
Right.
example, 70s में किसी ने ये शायद नहीं notice किया होगा कि अरे the films that are becoming hits right now all have the central villain of the Zamindar, right? And then I remember there was a time in the late 1990s and the early 2000s when the villain was corruption, when the villain was corrupt people, right? So you had, let's say, a Ganga Jal, or all of these Prakash Jha sort of movies where the villain was a corrupt system. Even, let's say, a Wednesday I think was a pinnacle of that.
Yeah.
Where the system is at fault and the system's corruption, which also sort of ended with the UPA ka, the rule, the UPA.
Downfall. Yes.
Now we'll have to wait and watch, in time, as to what is our generation ka, propaganda.
I think we all know what it is, but let's not go there. So everyone in this chat knows what it is. But point being that I want to come back to the Big Shot once again, and then I want to go to another very cool movie, which is Khosla Ghosla, which I also think relates to what Bharat just said also. But Big Shot may they talk about how these capitalist operators, people who are very much in the system of capitalism, are making their money from it and are good at it, find a flaw within capitalism that is fatalistic, which caused then the 2008 global economical crash, right? So I think that is also very interesting because that film sort of shows how inside players sort of take on in fact Michael Scott की speech भी है उसमें Michael Scott में Steve Carell की speech भी है उसमें where he says that it's not that capitalism is that the system is mean is why we're angry. It's more because it's stupid often, and it's fueled by stupidity. And I do think that at some level, like you take what is happening with GameStop, right? For the longest time, we've always been trained to think that stocks work a certain way. I will argue this is momentous. I mean, this is a very big deal that a bunch of people, once they get together, it's just about collectivization, right? Because if Wall Street is collectivized in one place, they can decide whether a price goes up and down. But if internet collectivizes in one way, they can also decide whether it goes up and down if they have the guts to do that. So I think it makes a very interesting point. But yes, let's go back to Khosla, which is also a similar topic. Because again, back then UPA times, it was more corruption was the theme. I think Khosla is also related to Indian context. This is an upper caste middle class family, which is in Delhi, and their land has been stolen, as land grabbing, which happens a lot in the north, especially. So, I mean, they have to find a way from outside this. They all have to become outlaws.
Yeah.
So I love that the film shows that in this system, if you get fucked in this system, the only way to save yourself is to figure out a scam of your own.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Khosla works so well, because it sort of, I think, also gets a lot of our desires at some level, that we also want to game the system and stuff, because we've all been told this person gamed the system, this person isne paise khila ke ye kara liya. We also want to do it. There is a desire, I think, at some level.
And the moral way to do it is to scam the scammer.
Right.
You're scamming like an honest person, then that's not moral. But if you scam a scammer, then that makes sense.
You guys remember that scene from Khosla Ka Ghosla? The actor who's the father of the leading lady, He's been taught to say, you're a party aki broker. Yeah, and he kind of he's sweating balls right before showing up in front of woman Irani. But it's like this person, when he enters the room with the calm, the fraud that he pulls off at that point, it's kind of like how the system plays out the fraud in, you know, The Big Shot or any of these anti-capitalist movies.
Yeah.
It's like pull the fraud with a very straight face, and everybody believes you, and people trust you, and that's how the system, you know, that's how you become part of that system.
There are signs of that in a lot of, a lot of films deal with that subject of entrepreneurship, like the human aspect of it, which is say for example Schindler's List, right? Schindler's List also, he has that scene, right, like where Ben Kingsley asks him, the Jews bring the money, I do the accounting, what the hell do you do, and then he says panache, like he says something like that, right? Or something like that, which is, he brings in the brand, he brings in that aspect of it. And again, now that we've done a whole diatribe of anti-capitalism, I think it does augur well for us to also say that there's a lot. For example, Satyajit Ray's Mahanagar, I think, makes a very good case for pro-capitalism, pro-industrialization at some level, right? As far as I remember it, any Bengalis in the audience can please correct me, those of you who've seen it. But because that film is about how this woman can finally go for a job, because the society now requires for more people to work and everyone to sort of be an earning member of which causes social change.
I mean, Satyajit Ray is called a humanist for this, right? Because he thinks of people over, like, the processes are there, the situation exists. Now what? What now? Like, I don't think Ray ever was overtly political. I mean, obviously his themes were political.
Not that I know of, but yeah.
No, but I mean, I from what I've read of him and from whatever I've seen, which is frankly a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, but in all of that, very few times is Ray making a statement of his own. Statements are mostly personal. His statements are mostly of people stuck or choosing to be in a place. For example, even a Nayak,
right.
Nayak is dealing with...
Nayak though is totally... right.
It is dealing with fame, but it is also dealing with this person and how he is looking at fame and how he is dealing with... So again, Ray looks at politics, even politics, from a personal lens. Which I personally love, because it makes for better stories. If you're telling a political... मतलब उसमें तुम्हारा agenda नहीं दिखता. मतलब Ray का agenda is personal.
There is this one film, okay, that it's a short film by Satyajit Ray, and it's kind of anti-capitalist. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's called Two. Have you guys seen it?
I haven't.
So it's yeah, it is on YouTube. It's on the Oscars, YouTube channel. So it's about basically these two kids. Okay, one is, on this balcony of his rich, upper middle class house, and the other kid is, living in like a slum area right outside. Not in a slum, just outside in the field, and you can kind of differentiate between them being, one is a rich kid and one is a poor kid. So every time this rich kid the poor kid pulls out a game, a toy, the rich kid has a better version.
Yeah.
And the ending of that thing, it's a very, I don't know, poetic ending, is that the poor kid has a balloon and the rich kid has an arrow, and he just shoots that balloon down. And it is like it is a kind of a message, right? The class difference and the which is brought about by capitalism.
अभी कुछ दिन पहले मैं पढ़ रहा था कि how it can be a metaphor for at that time the Vietnam War. So the rich kid is USA and the poor kid is Vietnam. Although I don't know if that adds up.
Also on that front, now that you mentioned Vietnam War, on the global scale, in terms of Africa and exploitation of countries like Congo, and which are very, that those are sort of the things that a lot of left activists, like say like a Zizek or somebody, these guys often talk about these countries which are as examples of failures of capitalism, right? Which is that the Congo, despite having a lot of natural resources, are one of the poorest countries in the world because of Western exploitation, right? So, wo sab mein, I think the West also, again, and a good example of a movie which talks about guilt and in relation to capitalism, in my view, which is one of the finest directors we have in the world, which is Michael Haneke, whose film Cache,
Yeah.
Cache, which in French apparently means hidden. So that is a wonderful film about guilt. I would very highly recommend. It's a very slow film. It
Very-
requires a lot of patience, but and just keeping the politics aside for a moment, just the art of that film, or just the way the film is made, it is one of the most horrifying slow films I've ever seen. The
Yeah.
frame doesn't move. The
Yeah.
camera is not moving, but you're so scared. You're
And
like,
it's always a
yeah,
long shot. Like
huh.
there are no close-ups, I think, in that movie. It's just like a long shot. ऐसे 15-20 shot की film है.
Middle of the day, middle of the street, wide shot. The most non-horror setting. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
and you feel scared as shit. And I don't want to say much about Cache because if I say anything, it'll kind of spoil the movie for everyone. So I would very highly recommend everyone go and watch Cache by Michael Haneke, and also Funny Games by Michael Haneke, which is uh, another film with similar sort of. हमने यार इतना टाइम हो गया, हमने डेविड लिंच की बात नहीं की, हमने ब्लू वेलवेट की बात नहीं की. शर्म आनी चाहिए हमको. तो ब्लू वेलवेट आई नो
देखी है,
हिमांशु की,
मैंने नहीं देखी है.
बट मुझे पता है हिमांशु और मुझे बहुत ही ज्यादा पसंद है ब्लू वेलवेट. It also tackles these themes in a very different, in a very, of course, in a very Lynchian kind of way.
You kind of
Himanshu.
have to see that movie,
Yeah.
to get into those themes. For example, if you start explaining Blue Velvet right now, like it won't make a lot of
Yeah.
just watch it if you ever get the time to watch it.
Blue Velvet is like that Salman Khan dialogue. दिल में आता हूँ समझ नहीं, sorry, दिल में आता हूँ समझ में नहीं. हाँ.
तो लिंच
Yeah.
का हर फिल्म के बारे
हाँ,
में.
हर फिल्म का वही है. Feeling
Have
होती
you
है.
guys seen
Lynch की.
Uncut Gems?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It has this opening sequence about how they find that diamond, right?
Right. Right.
And the rest of the film is something else. Okay. But the opening sequence itself is about how this entire country is almost in a in that slave mode, that they're looking for this one rock, and then everything after, and once they find it, so much shit goes down, and then the rock gets sent to
Right.
the main guy, the Adam Sandler gets the rock, and then his life gets turned upside down. It is anti-capitalist kind of a movie, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It
I think so. One Rushi Shah has, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but Rushi Shah has said, and I think we should take it from the other side as well, which is, what's your take on Pursuit of Happiness? Pursuit on Happiness is a pro-capitalist film. It's a good pro-capitalist film and a pro-American sort of film, which is, and it's a true story of I forget, Chris Gardner, I think his name was.
I don't
It's a
know.
good, the real guy. Anyway, so it's about how you can actually succeed. So quite antithetical to what we were saying about your succession wala scene and all of those things, that system you can't succeed. This is about a guy who actually did succeed, who struggled a lot, and with that, again, it's, I think most people have a very good view of that film. I'm sure a lot of leftists don't, but most
I mean,
people have a very,
I agree. It is.
yeah.
I mean, there was a time where the American dream was like a sought after thing, right? Which is,
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people can even, there are obviously flaws in that dream too. But I'm saying this whole virtue of, ki sar jhukhao, kaam karo. And then, that is especially true for that time, right? And for that atmosphere. कि तुम मेहनत करो, तुम काम करो, तुम्हें अपना फल मिलेगा. Like that is the only thing stopping you from becoming successful. Obviously, अब उसमें तुम रेस का कास्ट तो इंडिया में it's a problem. When you add all of that, then it becomes more skewed and more subtle. But by and large, I think it's a very well made film, which is why, again, it's a personal film. It's not
Right.
the aspect of childhood, like how he's bringing up his kid and how the kid sees his father. I think that's the more interesting aspect of the film.
Right.
But yeah, I think there is some truth to that, right? We can acknowledge that is all.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, reiterating that we don't have a committed position on this, so we like it is fun to explore that side of it as well, because it is something that has held true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And yes, it is true that if you do work hard and if you have the right moves, but you can be successful. But again, as Bharat said, lots of caveats to that. Again, it's a very enjoyable film, but I don't know what else to say on Pursuit of Happiness. But another antithesis of a Pursuit of Happiness is a film like which Samraj Agarwal has said. Talking of the American dream, how about Nightcrawler? Nightcrawler is also a fascinating experience, because Nightcrawler talks about, yes, you can be successful, but you have to realize what the game is, and what there is always exploitation right around the corner, right? And in that film is, I mean, Nightcrawler is a great example of an anti-capitalist film, because in the modern day, because that guy Jake Gyllenhaal's character is a full-on hustle culture guy. Like he believes in you wake up on time and you do this, and the people who sort of give you rules to your life and that kind of a thing. So I think that film is a very good critique of modern day
Nightcrawler is like an
capitalism.
antithesis to American Psycho. Do you guys think?
Antithesis nahi, I would say extension ही है ना, मतलब similar themes, very similar.
Similar, but like एक होता है ना कि this guy is trying so hard and has to cross the line. He has to
That's true.
multiple times has to break this, this
No,
line
you're
of,
right actually, Himangshu, because in American Psycho he loses his mind.
Yeah.
Here he doesn't lose his mind. Right?
Yeah.
He doesn't at the end he doesn't lose his mind. He's very this is sorted by the end actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
In American Psycho, you have to the guy's already psycho to begin with. By having the amount of money that he has. It's not like there's a descent into madness.
No, he is already mad. Like he's from the get go. Satyam Mishra ने मेरी काफी यादें ताजा कर दी हैं. उसने कहा है, if you have seen Saeed Mirza's Arvind Desai ki Ajeeb Dastan, if you guys remember that film, it has a unique perspective on capitalism from an elite lens.
Yes.
It's a मैं सच्ची बोलता हूँ, मैं उसमें थोड़ा सा सोया था. हम तीनों एक ही कॉलेज से हमने फिल्म पढ़ा था कॉलेज में, तो हमें वो फिल्म सुबह 9:30 बजे अरविंद देसाई की अजीब दास्तान, मैं किसी को भी चैलेंज देता हूँ, 9:30 बजे आप ये फिल्म पूरी देख के दिखाओ मुझे, ठीक है? मतलब मैं मान जाऊंगा.
तो एंडिंग है ना, इस मूवी की एंडिंग आज तक की बेस्ट एंडिंग है.
बेस्ट एंडिंग है भाई. Dude, I keep thinking about it. Like I keep thinking.
मत बोलो, स्पॉइलर मत देना, ये इसका स्पॉइलर मत देना.
ये देख लो भाई.
But again I would recommend very highly.
3 फिल्में हैं सईद अख्तर मिर्जा की. They all have the same thing with the name. Okay, it's the name of the character is in the movie. एक तो ये
सलीम
लंगड़े पे मत रो. फिर
एल्बर्ट पिंटो को गुस्सा क्यों आता है?
Yeah, and then
I just googled Arvind Desai ki Ajeeb Dastan to check if it not Saeed Mirza ki और कौन सी फिल्म है, and apparently Albert Pinto को गुस्सा क्यों आता है was a sequel to this film.
No.
It says that on Wikipedia. I don't know. Maybe only for Saeed Akhtar Mirza, but not for the rest of us. देखो इतना नो मत बोलो क्योंकि बॉलीवुड में सीक्वल्स का मीनिंग कुछ भी होता है.
हाँ, गोलमाल रिटर्न, सॉरी हंगामा रिटर्न्स का अभी तो आई है तो
हाँ. एकदम weird है ना ये. जैसे मुन्ना भाई 1 में he fell in love with a girl and then they settled in the end. मुन्ना भाई 2 that girl's disappeared. Like she's not there anymore. He finds a new girl.
मुन्ना भाई 1 में ग्रेसी सिंह, yes, ग्रेसी सिंह was there.
It's like क्या sequel है, मतलब the story characters all get deleted except for the
only these two are required. हाँ. Yes. Anything else? Do we have any other ज्ञान to give to
Wolf of Wall Street के बारे में बात करना है?
Wolf of Wall Street का तो बात ही नहीं किया.
मतलब उसके बारे में क्या बात करें? हाँ सही है.
सही बात है, बात तो सही है. तो
फिल्म में
सही है.
It tells you ना, I think ऐसा बोल, it's like how bad can you get if you get super rich? if you're super duper rich,
Yeah.
the worst that can happen to you is that you will go to a very luxury jail.
Prison. Yeah.
Like we'll
It
be
is
playing
true.
tennis and all that, na?
It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. उसका तो वो dialogue भी है ना उसमें end में वो बोलता भी है that you know for a very brief moment I forgot I'm rich. You know, like he says that, which is so true. And again, Succession also has that same thing. Like for example, the 2008 crash, which had a lot of criminality involved, like a lot of criminality with a lot of people's money. Only one person went to jail for it.
Oh,
Only one guy from Wall Street went to jail for it, and that too for some like very, and apparently he was thrown under the bus, and वो भी वो बहुत जल्दी I think निकल के पता नहीं, I don't know exactly, but none of the big people, nobody else suffered anything for it.
wow.
Like it's actually like if you are super rich, there is, and this is not an anti-capitalist statement, it's a matter of fact. If you are super rich, there is absolutely nothing that can ever happen to you. Matlab, even if you're like, look at India, right? You have these industrialists who run away from India and all of that. What really happens? Like you don't, they still live in London only, no? Matlab, from uh, a couple, I forget the name. Shit, why am I forgetting all names today? Anyway, maybe it's for the better only. So, uh,
I like the
okay.
fact that in The Big Short, na, they take so much effort to make us understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Because मेरे को बिल्कुल समझने नहीं आने वाला था कि क्या होता है bonds, क्या होता है AAA rating, क्या होता है वो. But by the time in the movie when they're sitting in Michael Scott's character, I think his name is, I'm forgetting. He sits in front of this company head who's a ratings company.
Yeah.
And she's rating the bonds. Okay, she's supposed to rate the bonds, and the bonds are rated as AAA, AA, and then B
Right.
and C. And apparently, the Bs and the Cs are going, bad, but the As are the ones that people are shorting on now, right? So this character is literally introduced as a person with who's blind, like she's wearing
Yeah,
black
yeah.
specs.
She's just had some Ayeka thing, so she's wearing the
Yeah.
those things.
So The Big Short, if you haven't seen it, it's very enjoyable, and it explains much better than an economic class might if you haven't understood the 2008 crash.
Absolutely. By the way, guys, एक फरमाइश आई है सम्राज अग्रवाल से. मेरे को अभी वो रेस्टोरेंट में गजल सिंगर होता है ना, फिर कोई अंकल आके 500 रुपए देते हैं और फिर बोलते हैं कि ये कि मुझे एक फरमाइश है सम्राज अग्रवाल से, जाने भी दे यारों पे दो शब्द प्लीज. तो जाने भी दे यारों पे दो शब्द. बहुत अच्छी फिल्म है सम्राज. लेट्स मूव ऑन. तो नहीं, बट ऑफ कोर्स इट इज
ऑल्सो कैपिटलिस्ट ना वो. एक तो मुझे उसका सबसे बेस्ट शॉट सीन लगता है.
हाँ.
And it's not the funny wala scene. It is no, not that one. It's like it's literally shot in that crane going up the building, and I think it's revolving or something, right? It's going. It's a very modern looking shot. मतलब मैं आज की मूवी में वैसा कुछ शॉट इमेजिन करूंगा. It was very interesting. मैं मेरे को शॉट याद आ गया.
The construction, the project का head and all the fund people who are paid. They are talking in that ranch going up.
Pine and Lime has said Harshad, अच्छा उसने delete कर दिया अपना comment. Harshad Mehta did go to jail, he said. But again, I would argue that if he would have, he died of a heart attack, but I would argue that it wouldn't be so bad.
अगर आज जिंदा रहता तो बाहर
रहता. I mean, Subrata Sahara is in jail. I don't think his life is horrible. I don't think he lives like an average. Not that I know, but I don't think he would be living like an average prisoner inside jail. I'm pretty certain it wouldn't be like that. So yeah, Samraj is saying uncle hi bana diya and laugh emoji. Sorry Samraj, but yeah. Any other cinema or anything else we want to touch on for you? And so okay, we're now at the end of our episode, guys. Thank you guys for watching. 55 people watching right now. Please like the stream. And we would like to remind you, this is episode 6 of DISSTALKS. It's a collaboration between Chalchitra Talks and our YouTube channel, the one that the three of us run. It's called DISSContent. So if you like this conversation, please go in the bio and subscribe. There'll be the link in the description of this video. Please subscribe to our channel. और मैं इसके लिए अब तक committed position नहीं ले रहा था कि मुझे plug करने हैं ना. तो मतलब अगर मैं बोलूँ कि मैं anti capitalist, मैं बोलूँ कि मुझे अपने सब्सक्रिप्शन था ताकि मैं एक दिन पैसे कमा सकूं, तो फिर गलत हो जाएगा. तो इसीलिए मैं भी थोड़ा सा अपनी टू कोट अ डायलॉग फ्रॉम खोस्टा गोस्टा, मैं भी अपनी थोड़ी चोंच गीली करना चाहता हूँ. तो so yeah, thank you guys for joining us. In fact, I would like to give a recommendation to you guys. If you guys are interested in this kind of thing, and again, I don't necessarily agree with this YouTuber's opinions always, but it's an interesting worldview to take from a pretty well produced left thinker, which is a YouTube channel called ContraPoints, which is run by a trans woman called Natalie Wynn. And she sort of talks about capitalism. She talks about a lot of different things of our culture, and she presents it in a very new age way, and presents it in a way that all of us can understand without having to read 300 books and having sleepless nights. So I think you guys should check out that stuff. Yes. Okay.
Cool then.
All right. I think we're done. Are we good? Yes. Thank you guys for joining. Please subscribe to us. And yeah, I will just end the stream now. Turns out I cannot end the stream, so I'm not going to end the stream now.
ये तो हर बार
So
होता है.
हाँ, हर बार मुझे लगता है कि मैं शायद कर सकता हूँ, but